Okay, so we just did this, and we read in this file, which didn't have headers or variable names, and so read table automatically gives it v1, v2, v3, v4. Okay, and then these numbers are just the row numbers; they're not really in the data set. And we have the first row of data, the second, the third. And this is the result of a data frame, or this is a data frame. Now, if you wanted to read in a list of variable names instead of having just v1, v2, v3, something more informative, you can we can add this: last name, first name, died date, born date, or whatever you want to call them. So the way you can do that is create a vector with those strings in it. So last name is the first string, comma, first name is the second string, comma, died date is the third string, comma, born date is the fourth string. And then do a read table again. And this time you can have one of the arguments, you can fill it in, you can include it, and it's col.names. That's the column names, which is what we want, the column names. And we're going to let it equal this vector that we just assigned here that had 4 values. Okay? So you can do that. And then you read that into here, and then you can see what it looks like by typing it. And here we see that it gave those headers to that now. Okay, now that does not affect the original data set. That is, it doesn't affect this, right? Because this is just happening in R. I didn't save it back to here or anything like that. So it doesn't affect what I have in here, but it does give, within the data frame, it does give these. Now going back to the documentation, we have all of these arguments, and you can see that one of them was here, here, column names. Okay? And if you want to know, if you want information about each of these, you just scroll down and you have a description of the arguments. So file, the name of the file which the data are to be read from. Each row of the table appears as one line of the file. If it does not contain an absolute path, what does absolute path mean? That's, like I said before, if you go back to here, so if I typed in this exactly, but with the forward slashes, of course we have to change it to forward slashes. That's called the absolute path. If it does not contain an absolute path, the file name is relative to the current working directory, which is what we said. So we'd actually, I didn't need the absolute path because I did just want to use the current working directory. So I just need to name the file. And you can, of course, get that with this. Until the expansion is performed or supported, this can be, I don't know what that means. Okay, so you can read this. And then header is a logical value. Logical means true or false value, indicating whether so remember that. Logical value means true or false value, indicating whether the file contains the names of the variables as its first line. So ours didn't, so I didn't read that in. If missing, the value is determined from the file format header, from the file format. Header is set to true if and only if the first row contains one fewer field than the number of columns. So it will automatically be set to true under this condition, but let's not worry about that. Okay, so you can find out what these are, what the arguments are. Then we have details. This function is the principal means of reading tabular data into R. Unless call class, it says there's more information. So we're not going to go through all the documentation about it. And then down at the bottom, it has the examples that we saw before. Okay, now let's try and put headers into the actual file. So you can go back to here, and you can try and open that file. So you have to go to Open. This is one way to do it in Excel. And go to the file, which is in here. And then choose All Files. And here it is. So I open that. Now it has to interpret this. So I go Next. And this is correct. So I go OK. Right now, what I can, it's very simple to do. Just insert a new line and call this first name, last name, and so on, like this. And by the way, it's good not to have spaces in the header names or the variable names, generally speaking. Now going back here, I see I made a mistake, right? This is not the die date and the born date. It's the opposite, right? OK, anyway, that's not so important. OK, now if I save this as a text file, but I'll give it another name. Headers. OK, let's try that. Close it. And then try this. To read it in, I don't need to add column names because I already have it in the file, hopefully. And let's see what happened. OK, I type this in, and I get this. So it worked. OK, so I want you to try this yourself. So modify, create a new file that has headers, like I just did. And also try this method here. But that would have to be on the one without the headers. OK, so try that out. See if you can get them working. And then we'll come back and do another video on this data frame.